The Dr. Cheyenne Bryant situation has been everywhere this week, and most people are treating it like a courtroom. Did she earn the degree or didn't she? Is the title real or isn't it? Was Argosy University the problem or was she? You know, I'm not interested in any of that conversation. I'm interested in the one that nobody is having, the brand conversation. The question of how a platform that size, with that many followers, that many books, that many media appearances, had no structural defense when scrutiny arrived. Because that question has one answer, and the answer applies directly to every woman building a brand on her expertise right now. Hey, friend, my name is Quinn, and in addition to being a communication strategist for nearly 20 years, I'm also founder of Sister Lady Girl Consulting, where I work with women in midlife who are turning what they know into what they earn. And I have something that I teach called story equity. And today I'm using the Dr. Bryant situation to show you exactly what a story equity breakdown looks like, and more importantly, how to make sure yours never does. Let me give you the facts as they stand today. So, Dr. Cheyenne Bryant is a relationship coach, a motivational speaker, an author, a media personality. She has consistently built her brand identity around the title Dr. Bryant, a doctorate in counseling psychology she says that she earned from Argosy University. Well, Argosy University has since shut down. So, when people went looking for her dissertation in public academic databases, they found nothing. And when she appeared on The Breakfast Club to address the questions directly, her explanation involved a school closure, a third party records custodian, a 2 year document retention window, and a refund she chose not to pursue. The explanation introduced more questions than it resolved. And separately, on the Joe Budden podcast, she said she does not hold a clinical therapy license. And her reason was that a license is only needed to bill insurance. And she prefers operating without the oversight of an ethics board. Now, here's where I have to stop because those two moments, the Breakfast Club interview and the Joe Budden comment, are the entire case study. And it's not because of what they revealed about her credentials, but because of what they revealed about the brand. Now, the first move in a credibility crisis is always the tell. And the tell here was the same one that I see often in times of personal brand collapses that come under scrutiny, right? The brand was built on a label, and the label had no root system underneath it. And that is not a PR problem necessarily. I think it's a story equity problem. And those are two very different things. Here's what I call it when a brand gets built from the top down instead of the bottom up. I call it leading with impact before you've established root. So, in my story equity framework, impact is layer number 5. It's the legacy layer where your offers sit, where you're making income, where your influence is there, the title, the platform. It is the last thing that you build because it has to rest on the top 4 layers. When you skip to layer 5, when you lead with the title, the credential, the doctor, and the layers underneath aren't visible, they aren't documented, they aren't defensible, you've built a brand on a surface. And surfaces don't survive scrutiny, they crack under it. That is what has happened here. The title was the brand, not the story, not the wisdom, not the methodology, the title. And when someone decided to question the title, there was no root system deep enough to hold it. Let me show you what should have been there instead. Story equity is the framework that I built around one core belief: your lived experience, which is your story, your wisdom, your transformations. It's an asset, not a supplement to your brand, the actual foundation of it all. But like any asset, it only holds value when it's structured correctly. So there are 5 layers. Layer 1 is your root, your story, your lived experiences, your turning points, the specific moments that shaped what you know and why you know it. This is the foundation of your unique value, not a degree someone else issued you, the actual life you walked through, and what it cost you and what it taught you. Your story is what makes you unreplicable. Anybody can purchase a certification. No one can purchase your specific journey. Now, layer two is your wisdom, and this is the gold. This is where your story becomes intellectual property. The insights that you extracted, the perspective only you carry because only you lived it, the methodology you developed, deliberately or not, from navigating something real. This is what people are actually buying when they hire you, not the title, the wisdom behind it. In layer three, that's your message, the magnet. How you connect your story and your wisdom to the people who need it most. Your positioning, your voice, the specific, honest way you say the thing that makes someone stop and say, yeah, she's talking directly to me. A message built on story and wisdom does not need a title to stand, it stands on its own. In layer four, that's where your community is, the movement, the trust that you build over time, the people who gather around your mission, the audience that doesn't just consume your content, they defend it, they share it, they come back. Notice what was missing when the Bryant situation erupted. Her community had nothing concrete to point to, no origin story to anchor their defense, no visible wisdom trail to hold up as evidence, nothing but the title. And the title was exactly what was being questioned. Layer five is your impact. This is the legacy piece. Your authors, your income, your influence, the work that outlives the moment. This is where story equity pays, literally, but it only holds because the four layers underneath it are solid. Five layers, each one holding up the next. When you build in that sequence, root first, impact last, scrutiny does not collapse your brand, it confirms it. Now, here is the part that I need for you to really listen to because the women in my world are not Dr. Bryant, but some of you are making a version of the same mistake, just in the opposite direction. And I know this because I lived it. I spent more than 16 years in corporate, senior communications leader, global role, the kind of title that felt permanent until the day it wasn't. I got let go. And like a lot of women in that position, I ended up in an outplacement program, the standard next step that's supposed to help you land on your feet. The problem was it didn't fit. Not because it wasn't well intentioned, but because those programs are not necessarily designed for a woman at an inflection point like I was. They're designed to help you find another version of the job that you just lost. But what if you're not interested in doing that? You know, I was educated, I was experienced, I was credentialed. I had 16 years of real outcomes, real strategy, and real results. But I was not done. I just didn't want to go back. And here's what I realized in that gap, the thing that nobody in that outplacement office could tell me: the credential was never the asset, the story behind it was. I had been leading with my title for my entire career: senior director of this, VP of that. And the moment that title was gone, I had to figure out what I actually had, what was mine, what no layoff could touch, what I could build on. And that is how story equity was born, not in a classroom, in a crisis. So when I say your story is the foundation, I'm not speaking just from a framework, I'm speaking from experience. And here's what I see now in the women I work with every single day: you have the root, you have decades of real story, earned wisdom, a methodology developed through actual outcomes, actual clients, actual life. You have more story equity than most people who are calling themselves experts right now. And you're just sitting on it because you think you need one more certification first, one more credential, one more title before you feel authorized to call yourself an expert. Let me name that move. That is not humility. That is story equity avoidance, and it is costing you. Here is the distinction that changes everything. A title can be Googled. A title can crack under pressure if the root isn't there. But the problem you navigated, the client whose trajectory changed, the career you rebuilt from the inside out, that cannot be challenged. That is yours. That is the asset. So when you own your story and package your wisdom with clarity, You don't just build a business, you build a brand that sells, serves, and scales. Your story is not part of the business, it is the business. Here's what the Dr. Bryant situation actually teaches us. The first move is always to tell. Her first move was to reach for a title, not a story, not a body of work, not a methodology that could stand on its own, a title. And when the title came under pressure, there was nothing underneath it built to hold the weight. And that's the lesson. Not that credentials don't matter, because of course they do. The lesson is that credentials are layer number five. They are the fruit, not the root. Build a root first. Build it deep. Build it from what is real, what is earned, what is yours. Because the only brand that survives scrutiny is the one that was never pretending in the first place. If this framework is new to you, if story equity is something you want to understand and apply to your own brand, subscribe to this channel, because this is exactly the kind of work that we do here. And if you know a woman who's building her platform right now and needs to hear this before it costs her, send her this video. And also subscribe, because your story and your equity equals your freedom. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.